Welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight for the Candidates Forum for the Alameda County Superintendent of Schools. I'm Jo Loss of the League of Women Voters of Eden area. Tonight's program is a joint venture of the Alameda County League of Women Voters in Piedmont, Alameda, Oakland, Berkeley, Emeryville, Albany, Fremont, Newark, Union City, and Eden area. The League of Women Voters is a trusted membership organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We do not endorse any or oppose candidates or political parties. The League participates in advocacy and voter education. The advocacy arm of the League may take positions on issues such as ballot measures. This forum is presented by the education arm of the League. I'd like to remind everyone that the candidates have all agreed to participate under the ground rules for this forum. The League is very proud of their history of civil discourse and nonpartisan forums. This is an educational event, not a debate. Before we get started, there are some details to review that will help you interact with this session. Microphones are muted for everyone except the candidates and the moderator. Candidates will stay on screen for the entire forum and will mute until it is their turn to speak. We are recording this forum and will be posting it via Facebook and YouTube for the broader community to access. We have one forum to present in this session. This will be for the position of Alameda County Superintendent of Schools. There are two candidates running for this elected office. We will be handling questions for the candidates in the following manner. Questions for this forum have been solicited in advance from the community and from our local leagues. We've screened the questions to avoid duplication and anything inappropriate. The order of answering the questions will alternate, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. You can also add questions to the Q&A list. The candidates have drawn lots for the order of speaking. We will begin opening statements with Ms. Castro. Ms. Castro?
Thank you so much, Jo, and thanks everybody for being here this evening. My name is Elise Castro. I am a 26-year public school educator. I've been a teacher. I've been a principal. I'm currently the director of county schools. I have also taught school resource and finance at UC Berkeley. One of my favorite principals had a motto which I have adopted, which is, my job is to make your job possible. And I really believe that this is a great motto for a county office of ed, because a county is ultimately about providing support for our highest needs kids inside of juvenile hall, our foster and homeless youth, but also support for teachers. And we all know teachers are needing a lot of support this year, and for our struggling schools and districts as well. And it's this approach to bringing support that is why I'm doing this. I'm 100% in this for the kids, for the teachers, and I am supported by the teachers. I am supported by the California Teachers Association, starting with the teachers currently at the Alameda County Office of Ed, and including the teachers across all of Alameda County. I'm supported by the California school employees. That's most of our classified non-teaching staff, starting with the classified employees from the Alameda County Office of Ed and spreading again across the county, supported by the Alameda Labor Council, our Revolution East Bay Democrat, so many East Bay Democratic clubs like Wellstone, Alameda, Oakland East Bay, because folks know that there's more that we can do with this office. There's more support we can provide to break the school to prison pipeline, to embed systems of care and wellness and mental health services in our schools, to recruit and retain excellent teachers from our community who can afford and are supported to stay in our community, and ultimately to stop the cycle of school closures that is hollowing out the educational options in so many of our schools. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Castro. Ms. Monroe, time for your opening statement.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the League of Women Voters for hosting this. This is always one of the most valuable forums that I have the privilege of attending. So thank you so much for hosting it. So I'm a fourth generation Alameda County resident. My family has been here for a very long time and has been involved in education. I'm a third generation educator. I spent my career teaching and being a principal in the Oakland Unified School District. And my career started with this passion and continues. This passion continues to drive me forward. So there are three principles that I really believe that are important to stand by. And this is what I lead for currently as a two-term county superintendent in the County Office of Ed. We stand up for justice, we stand out for excellence, and we stand together in partnership. And what that means is that we show up for the least served students in the county each and every day, that we show up for our 18 school districts. This is not something that we were doing when I came into the county office. The county office was a place that did not well serve its districts and that did not well serve its students with unaccredited schools. We made sure that the schools became accredited when I came into the office. Extremely important for our students. It's really important with fiscal oversight and academic oversight of our 18 school districts that we be absolutely responsible and responsive for our district. So, for example, being flexible is not something that we were. I have led to make sure that we are flexible and accountable and collaborative, and that our employees feel empowered. That's been extremely important to me, and I look forward to being able to lead for that in a third term in office. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Monroe. So now we'll alternate order for the questions. So Ms. Monroe, you'll go first on the first question. What do you see, and please feel comfortable to ask me to repeat questions if I don't get it the first time.
Great.
What do you see as the role of the Alameda County Office of Education and the superintendent in supporting schools throughout Alameda County?
So the role is multifaceted. As I mentioned, there's academic oversight and there's fiscal oversight, but there's also professional development of teachers and of administrators throughout the community. The role is to really be present and supportive. It is also to innovate in ways that districts with needing to deal with the urgencies that they face every day cannot always do. So we lead for early learning, which is what I brought back to the county office. It did not exist there when I took over, and with universal pre-K and universal kindergarten, it's essential for our districts to have that kind of expertise and support. Something else that the county office does, I was able to start a social emotional learning division during the pandemic. So we lead cohorts of schools in that effort. For example, we have 16 out of 18 schools participating in our most recent cohort, where we bring them together as communities of practice, give them the expertise and the support to put together their plans and then to walk them out. Also, as county superintendent, it's really important that in addition to these oversight roles, that there is a vital support role that the county superintendent and the county office serves. So coming alongside of districts, you don't want to wait till you get to the last day to approve their plan to let districts know that there might be an issue. We're working with them all year long.
Thank you. Ms. Castro, same question.
So I think that fundamentally the role of the county office and the county superintendent in supporting schools is really best thought of as how do we lighten the load, that our schools are incredibly strained and burdened and challenged and underfunded in California for at least 50 years. And that's nothing new, but the county office brings another set of resources. One of the ways that the county office is actually funded is just like every school gets a little chunk of money per pupil, the county also gets a little chunk of money per pupil. So we are then needing to turn around and say, what can we take off your plate? And what resources can we provide for you so that you don't need to provide them yourselves? How can we serve the foster and the homeless youth who are currently the most chronically underserved and most consistently falling through the cracks? How can we expand your district's ability to provide for your highest special needs students? How can we provide the training and professional development that goes with your own LCAP goals of serving your English language learners, serving your special needs students, serving your foster youth? It's partnering with the districts to say, how can I make your job possible?
Thank you. Give you a second to catch your breath. And then Ms. Castro, here's the next question. Alameda County has 18 very diverse school districts with different needs. What can the superintendent do to ensure that all districts are treated on an equitable basis by the Alameda County Office of Education?
I think you got the right word right in the question, is an equitable basis, which is about making sure that everyone gets what they need, which isn't the same thing in all the places. So we have some very high performing districts and some very small districts that may not need as much in their day-to-day working of their operations of their schools. But when they do have students who are struggling, they really have very incomplete infrastructures for that. So in those cases, they can turn to their county and say, can you help with this need? Then we have other places where the biggest needs are like recruiting and retaining educators. We all know that there is a tremendous teacher shortage, and this is a role that a county can play, is in providing credentialing and in helping with recruitment and again, in lightening the load for onboarding teachers from our community that can stay in our community. We currently do a little bit of this at our current Alameda County Office of Ed, but we need to take the scale up to 11. We then can also ask our districts, what do you need by way of professional development? What do you need by way of support? Because it won't be the same answer for all of our places. And that's where we find those economies of scale. That's where we find the ability to convene. And I'll stop there. There's so much more.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe, the same question.
Yes, so equitably serving our districts. This is really an area of focus for me and the county office on a daily basis. So this past week, our superintendents gathered for a retreat. These are superintendents from our districts across the county and really looking at what it is that they needed to know and what they have in common and what they need to have specific supports on. So what was in common was a focus on equity. No matter what district you are in, you really need to know how to serve not only your least served students, but students in a way that meets their needs. So that was our overarching theme. And then we got into specifics. So you heard me mention before, universal pre-K or universal transitional kindergarten, which is coming in the next 4 years. We talked to each district about their implementation because we know them well. We know through working with their assistant superintendents and their heads of HR and their heads of early learning, what it is they need. So we really dug deeply into that. We're the back office for our small districts. We absolutely serve all their fiscal needs. We support them in a multitude of ways. We support their board meetings. So it is really tailoring to the needs of each district, depending on what their requirements are.
Thank you. The next question is, how do you envision bringing the school districts in Alameda County in alignment with each other to create common ground and stability? Ms. Monroe?
Yeah, so I'll continue a little bit where I started, which is it is about gathering them together. Our districts, as all of us do as professionals, get a tremendous lot out of meeting together, out of convening together, and they ask for it, they're thirsty for it. And so we have really pivoted around that being our goal, to bring communities of practice together so that they can learn from each other and from us at the same time. So really helping them to align across what is common, which is, for example, everyone has to do a local control accountability plan. So really understanding what the foundational pieces of that are, but then comparing with each other, sharing with each other, and saying, what can I learn from this district? What can I learn from that district? And really having their plan fit what their community, what their students, what their teachers, what their paraprofessionals need in any given moment. We convene, we create the spaces for that, bringing together deep expertise. And we continually get feedback on the expertise of our team, how responsive the team is, how knowledgeable the team is, and how available the team is for our various districts. And that creates coherence across our county when we have that kind of collaboration.
Thank you. Ms. Castro, sorry.
Joe, will you give me the question again, please?
Sure. How do you envision bringing the school districts in Alameda County in alignment with each other to create common ground and stability?
I think that one of the most important aspects of alignment is looking at how that works out to be equitable for young people, for every young person. Because what we don't want is kids falling through the cracks as they have to shift between communities. And what we don't want is what we currently have, which is some neighborhoods who are able to provide a guarantee of an excellent education for every kid in that community, and other neighborhoods that don't have that and don't provide that guarantee at all. And so ultimately, your educational opportunities in Alameda County currently are very much determined by your zip code and by where you are able to afford to live. And so when we talk about bringing our school districts together to build their capacity, that's important, but it's also how we are coming together as a county to build that essence of public schools as infrastructure for equity, because we know that some schools and some districts have a lot further to go, and they need a county that they can turn to. Now, currently, most of my friends who are assistant superintendents, county district leaders in our community, they say they go to other counties for their professional development. And we need to bring some of that back home in order to bridge those gaps for our most underserved communities and bring everybody up to the same level.
Thank you. So both of you have touched on this already a bit, but this question will ask you to delve a little bit deeper. It goes to Ms. Castro first. Schools, students, families, and staff have been greatly impacted by the pandemic during the last 2 years. What can the Alameda County Schools Superintendent do to assist them as a result of the pandemic?
And that was me first. Okay. So there probably are two really key areas. One is in what our learning options are coming out of pandemic, and one is in what our mental health and social emotional needs are coming out of pandemic. It is critically important that all of our schools have access to counseling, mental health, and wellness supports. This is something that we've been able to do in my current school system, where we have social workers and wellness centers available for every single student. And it is something that we need to be able to continue to do at the county level. Some of our districts have these services in place already, others don't. This is a place where the county really can step in and assist with those partnerships, can assist with those contracts, can assist with the Medi-Cal billing and all of the mess that comes behind providing services that especially our smallest districts often struggle to provide. At the same time, we also need to be looking at our educational options, that we have a lot of young people who are still not fully back in school. So we need the army of social workers who is out knocking on doors, finding our young people who have not made it back, and then really enriching the educational options for our hybrid and online learners who, for whatever reason, due to their own choices, are choosing to stay home. And we need to build out our capacity to really have that as a rich learning option.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe? like me to repeat the question, or are you good?
I think I'm good. So
Okay.
during the pandemic, there was an incredible opportunity for the Alameda County Office of Ed, and actually all county offices across the state, to step in. Districts were drinking from a fire hose and really responding to the urgent needs of their students and families, which they needed to do. They absolutely needed to do. So what we as county superintendents were able to do, and what I was proud to be able to lead for, was to provide relevant, up-to-date information, not only for school leaders, but for teachers, for classified personnel, for community members, that was easily accessible and that our team worked tirelessly to make sure was up to date. We partnered with public health to make sure that we had calls, sometimes multiple times a week, with different stakeholders to make sure that they were updated on the latest news about the pandemic. As any of us who have lived through this know, that the news wasn't just changing once a day. Sometimes it was multiple times a day. And really translating that into what it meant for schools was difficult. So we were there, our staff and our team was on call. I convened those conversations, which many people felt and continue to feel was a critical lifeline for them.
Thank you. Our next question concerns fiscal management, and it goes to Ms. Monroe first. Fiscal management is a large part of the Alameda County Office of Education's responsibility. What can the superintendent and ACOE assist the school districts with fiscal issues, with or without the assistance of FICMAT?
I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind repeating that last part again once more, just so I'm clear.
Sure.
Thank you.
Where can the superintendent and ACOE assist school districts with fiscal issues, with or without FICMAT?
Got it. So the county superintendent has had this role since about 1984. And one of the reasons that this was instituted was because there were districts who were experiencing extreme fiscal distress, and there was not a safety net, or there was not the support they needed to ensure that they had the information necessary to attain fiscal health. So one of the things that we do is we convene the heads of business, and we make sure that in between times, as their quarterly reports are due, that we are assisting to ensure that they are making the decisions necessary. So they have a direct line to my chief business officer and to me, and we are supporting them in a multitude of ways. It can be coming to a board meeting and explaining or assisting the board to understand the information necessary to make good decisions. It can be at a superintendent's meeting, really talking about what's coming down the pike for the state budget and what people need to be aware of. It can be guidance in terms of how fiscally conservative should you be this year, to what new investments can you make for your students. So that is really where the support comes. Those reports that you see are the end result.
Thank you. Ms. Castro?
Yeah, so school finance is legitimately complicated. It operates by its own set of rules, and often people's intuitions from running their own household budgets really lead them astray. In my own experience, I am considered a fiscal expert. I have been coaching principals and school leaders in school finance and teaching School of Resource and Finance at UC Berkeley in the Graduate School of Education for a number of years. And part of it is about understanding the school finances at a deep, nerdy level, but part of it is also about being able to explain them and explain some of the reasons why our own intuitions lead us astray. Because often people go to like school board meetings and they see these school finances and they say, like, why are these numbers always changing? And there are actually reasons for that. And being able to understand that and explain those patterns is critical. Being able to understand them and explain them to board members and superintendents, who are among the people who often leave these board meetings honestly very confused, is absolutely critical. And it gives you the ability to really look at how you're using your resources in service of your educational vision and how you are working waste out of your system and eliminating bureaucracy so that you can do things like when Oakland closed its adult education programs because of financial reasons, I was able to step in from my tiny alternative school and say, you know what, we can triple the size of our adult school with existing resources, because if you really understand the numbers, there's often a little bit more there to work with than we're getting.
Thank you. Our next question is going to Ms. Castro first. One of the superintendent's key duties is to educate children who've been expelled or placed in juvenile hall. What works to serve these students, and are Alameda County Office of Education's programs successful?
Okay, so this is what I do. What works is to recognize that there is a panoply of needs going on with these young people. And if you center the needs of the young people and you design the school to meet those needs, then you will provide a life-changing experience. One of the thought experiments I sometimes engage educators in a court school or a community school for expelled youth in is the question of, like, imagine we were able to just tip off the top of their brain and pour in academic skills, and they were suddenly magically at grade level in all their academic skills. If they went back to their comprehensive school tomorrow, would everything just flow fine? And everyone in the room says no. Say, okay, what else do we need to teach? What else needs to be part of our curriculum? Because if that young person's social emotional development needs to be part of the curriculum, then we need to build it in and we need to teach for it. Similarly, if the transition planning starts day one, when you're in a temporary program, be it juvenile hall or expelled youth, what is your transition plan? What's your service plan? How does it follow you out to the next place so that you're with us once and never coming back? I think that in the last few years, ACOE has strengthened some of their programs and has opened a couple of programs that are embedded in community agencies, and those are a really good move. But not having a brick and mortar school for our expelled youth, not having state-of-the-art juvenile justice programming, there's a long way to go.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really proud of the ways that we have grown our programs and how we have pivoted our focus to make sure that we are listening to and responding to what our students and community members are telling us that they need. As I mentioned, when I first came to the county office, our schools were not accredited. And while that was job number one, we had a long way to go, and we still do. This is an enormous issue that impacts not just our students who are expelled and incarcerated, but our entire community. And it takes our entire community to address the need. So by embedding our programs in community-based organizations, we essentially are helping to wrap around the students that we're serving. Those programs also have access through Alameda County to behavioral health services. We also have healthcare services. We have recently opened our own food bank in one of our brick and mortar schools for our students in all of our schools to be able to come and actually meet the needs that they have beyond their educational needs. We understand when we serve students who are in our alternative education programs that education is only one of their needs. And that often they cannot access that need until we meet the others. So it's critically important that we serve their social, emotional, and felt needs as well.
Thank you. This is a little bit of a follow-up question, and both of you touched on this, but I would like our listeners to get a complete picture. So this will go first to Ms. Monroe. Please describe the programs ACOE offers and the role of the superintendent in serving these students.
So our student programs and services offers a number of programs. The classrooms at Juvenile Hall are some of the programs where some of our programs are based. That is a shrinking number of students, which is a wonderful thing. Our county has absolutely put a stake in the ground around incarcerating fewer students. So that is a smaller and smaller program that we are working right now to serve that small number of students as well as we possibly can. The larger programs and the growing number of programs we have are the programs that I described, which are the programs in a place like YEP, Youth Employment Partnership, and in Civicor, where we are meeting students where they are showing us that they are getting support and valuable job training that they need and desire, and we are doing school there for them. The great part about that is that we are able to have firsthand access in partnering with them to see what those other needs are. That is why we have started a food distribution service. It's why we're working on homelessness for our students and making sure that they are connected in whatever way we can to housing. It's why we are using our coordination of services teams to address the needs of our students each and every day with all of our administrators.
Thank you. Ms. Castro.
So, I mean, LK pretty well described the programs at the court school, at Camp Sweeney, and then a handful of small programs for both expelled youth, dropout recovery programs, as well as some programs for pregnant and parenting teens. I mean, these programs exist. There's a long way to go to make them better. There always is. There's a lot of room to work with our most challenged young people. There's also a lot of room to bring in young people who are currently struggling in districts who could be caught by this larger safety net. I think it is significant that many of the teachers and the staff in these programs have recently been sitting in my living room volunteering for my campaign. I can't come up with any stronger evidence that they're looking for a higher level of support and a different kind of leadership. One program that we didn't touch upon is that counties do have additional responsibilities for serving all expelled youth, whether we school them or not, and foster youth countywide. And those are additional spaces that we could be leaning into. There are counties that offer much richer levels of service, as well as like San Diego, which actually offers a residential program for housing unstable, foster and homeless young people. These are things that we're not required to do, but if we did them, they would lift load from the district and serve some of our most underserved districts, or kids across the districts countywide.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. And can you describe the legislative responsibility of the superintendent from the Alameda County Office of Education? And that goes to Ms. Castro first.
Yeah, so one of the things that most people don't know, and is kind of fun for the kind of people who show up for a policy forum, is that unlike in a district where the citizens elect their school board representatives and then the school board appoints their county superintendent, at the county level, the county superintendent is separately elected because they have separate responsibilities under the law. So the county superintendent and the board really only work together on operating those county schools, which is a tiny part of the job. The county superintendent is singly responsible for negotiating with their staff and setting salaries, is singly responsible for oversight of the budgets and the accountability plans, is responsible for making the decisions about what the services are that are going to be offered to their districts. There are a number of other sort of tiny statutory responsibilities as well. But those are the big ones, is overseeing the budgets and accountability plans and making sure that offering the services to districts. Whereas the county board has a whole different set of responsibilities, basically acting as like an appellate board for charter authorizations, for interdistrict transfers, for expulsion appeals. So it's a really interesting and unique set of pieces of the ed code to dive into. And most people who come from a district background are very surprised by the ways it's different.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe?
Yes, so the county superintendent serves as a constitutional officer. It's a constitutional role that started in 1874. It has obviously evolved over the years. One of the primary functions county superintendents hold is to be the liaison between the county and the state. So I just recently completed my term as the president of the 58 county superintendents. There is a critical policy role that county superintendents serve. When the Department of Finance wants to get more information or to get feedback about the fiscal health of particular districts, they call the county office and the county superintendent, particularly if county superintendents have had a track record of intervening well with their districts and working together well with their districts. Educational policy is the same thing. If you are a leader, not only in your county, but at the state level, legislators look to partner with you as they are looking to create legislation that impacts students and learning in any particular district. It's an essential role, and it's important that a county superintendent maintain really good relationships with their legislators and their policymakers.
Thank you. So our next question is a basic information question. And I'm hoping that you'll recognize this as an opportunity to share your positions and your knowledge. There's a great deal of misinformation, emotions, etc., involved in the conversation about charter schools. And if someone came to you and asked you to describe charter schools, how would you describe that? Ms. Monroe, you go first.
Thank you. Just jotting that down. So let me start with the end first. So I would describe charter schools as public schools, first of all, which is a misconception a lot of people have, that they are not public schools. They are. Charter schools exist in a couple of different ways. They can be authorized by a district. They can be authorized by a county as well. Charter schools were originally designed as kind of laboratories or incubators. Some charters have lived up to that promise. Most have not. There are charters that are serving school students well. There are charters that are failing to serve students well. I would say at this point that this is a policy area we need to strongly consider. At this particular moment, there are, at least in Alameda County and more specifically in Oakland, more schools, more charter schools in specific than the district can manage well for the number of students it has. I'm hoping I'm remembering all the parts of this question, but I would say for charter schools, there's a lot of controversy, and where we need to center our conversation is around what students need and what high quality learning looks like and how we can support our districts to support our students well.
Thank you. Ms. Castro, how would you describe charter schools to someone?
So I'm actually old enough to remember when charters were brand new, and a few teachers down the hall were very excited that there were going to be these little laboratory experiments where they could step outside of the bureaucracy and test something that was maybe hard to test in the rather bureaucratic environment of public schools. And that original legislation in California created the opportunity for there to be 100 charter schools that were supposed to innovate and then feed those innovations back into district schools. And because they were set up to be these laboratories, they were set up to be subsidized by our regular public school system. There is nothing in the laws about charter schools that makes them designed to stand on their own 2 feet. They require other entities to step in when they have high needs special ed kids. They require other entities to step in for some of their facility needs, but ultimately they wind up being subsidized. They weren't designed this way, but they do open the door for privatization. They do open the door for both really good actors, folks who are there trying to innovate creative solutions for new populations, and folks who really want to use public money to essentially create a non-public school system. So we as a legislative community have created this setup where we have two competing sets of schools that are both inside of an underfunded system. And we legislated our way into this. And as LK said, we have to policy our way back out of this so that we have one set of schools that provide guarantees to all of our kids, not choices.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Castro, you are first on this question. What do you see as the challenges and trends facing public education in California today? And how would you as superintendent work to address these challenges?
Oh boy, so many.
I was thinking that maybe I should have asked for a longer time, but
it's okay. So, I mean, ultimately, I think that the biggest challenge facing public education is inequity. It's the fact that all of our kids in all of our communities do not have anything like an equal shot at an excellent public education. And that's a problem that lives in our schools, but it's also a problem that lives far beyond our schools in our housing policy and our funding policy. A second issue that's huge in our public schools is that our public schools serve predominantly the lower income portion of our population. All poor kids go to public schools, not all well-to-do kids go to public schools. And we are serving a population that has a lot of barriers to learning. So we need to really center those young people in our services so that like our English language learning is absolutely top-notch, because we know we have a continuous flow of immigrant students who need those services, that we have the mental health and the wellness and the wraparound supports on our campuses, and of course that our instruction is deeply engaging. It is project-based, it has the STEAM and the STEM, and it has kids with their hands on real, touchable, tangible materials and technology.
Thank you. Ms. Monroe?
So I do not disagree that one of the primary barriers to student success, and we always talk about, our students being successful regardless of zip code, that is something we have yet to realize. The other is workforce, that we are experiencing an extreme teacher shortage, not just teachers, but leaders, bus drivers, paraprofessionals, that there are a number of things happening. One, it is incredibly expensive to live in the Bay Area. And even before the pandemic, we were losing people to other areas where they could afford to live. The other is that we have experienced this pandemic, and it's been hard on all of us, but it's really been hard on those who are in front of our students each and every day. Many leaders that can be superintendents or principals, if they have another option, are choosing it. And even before the pandemic, we saw that people were choosing this profession less and less. And so what we are doing at the Alameda County Office of Education is recruiting, training, and supporting those who would want to join the ranks of the teacher's profession, either through job pathways or through a credentialing program, an alternative credentialing program that we have. And one of the trends, I'll just say this, I won't be able to explain it, that I'm seeing is community schools.
Okay, thank you. So we're to our last question before closing statements. Why are you the best candidate for the job of superintendent? And that goes to Ms. Monroe first.
Well, thank you for that. I believe I am the best candidate because I've proven that I am an effective, compassionate, skilled leader in this job for the last 8 years. people like Tony Thurmond, who is our state superintendent of schools, agree with that. He and I work closely together. I'm endorsed by Eric Swalwell, Buffy Wicks, Bill Quirk, Keith Carson, Richard Valle, many city council members and mayors, as well as 6 out of 7 of our own school board members, and Democratic clubs, Tri-Valley, Tri-City, the APA Democratic Caucus, in addition to BWAPA. Also, I have a strong relationship with our building trades and labor. I have a collective impact initiative, which is birth to age 25, making sure that our young people, by the time they're 25, have a great shot at getting a family sustaining wage. And in order to do that, it's important to partner with our building trades who give our students a leg up in a way that sometimes they're not even getting if they are college graduates, which I absolutely support and know that we need more options available to our students. So I think that I am the best candidate for this job because I have the experience, the knowledge, the insight, and the passion.
Thank you. Ms. Castro.
So can you clarify, is this the closing statement or is this the question before the closing statement?
Now, this is the last question.
Okay, thank you.
And it's one that someone submitted during the forum. I just want to give them credit for that.
Okay, thank you. I am the best candidate for this role because for 20 years, I have shown a history of making situations work in public education where they haven't worked previously, making the most out of budgets, making the most out of staff, making the most out of opportunities for highest needs kids. When we do that, it lifts the load for districts and allows them to focus on kids that they might not otherwise be able to focus on and serve their core population. I never wanted to be a politician. This is the one and only office I will ever run for. And I am here because there is a cry for help from the educators who have left our county office, from the educators who are still in our county office, from the teachers, from the school employees. I was asked to run by the California Teachers Association, and I am here doing that. I am here with the support of the teachers. I am here with the support of the school employees because, as we've discussed so many times, people are falling out of this profession. They are so stressed, they are so stretched, and they are so challenged. And they are asking for another level of support. And they are asking this from me as a former colleague, as someone who briefly worked with them in 2014. They're saying, please, come back. We think we need you. And I think that I have to answer that call to provide them the services and the support that they need to do what our kids and families need done.
Thank you. You both have done a wonderful job of answering questions. I appreciate it. It's now time for your closing statements, and Ms. Monroe, you will go first.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. One thing that I will say that we've learned through this pandemic is this has been an extremely trying time for everyone. It's been a really trying time for educators. It's been a really trying time for educational leaders, and it's been an extremely trying time for our students and their families. I believe that this is a time when we need consistent, steady, well-informed, and experienced leadership. I work extremely well with our teachers and classified staff, and I am looking forward to being able to continue that in the next 4 years. This is something that I have really built my entire career on. I could not do this without the leaders in this county who have said over and over again that they could not do it without us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Castro, your closing statement.
So, as I said, I am not a politician. I'm an educator. I do this role of providing services for the county schools in our neighboring county of San Francisco currently. Gives me a lot of visibility into what is and isn't happening in Alameda County, gives me a lot of visibility into what is possible for counties. And that's the thing, is that I think most people in Alameda County have never seen a high functioning county office. and they don't know what they can ask. And so I'm asking you to trust the people who do know. So that includes not just the teachers, not just the school employees, that includes the former 4-term county superintendent of schools, that includes the folks who have left our county office, that includes the leadership of our Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission. But ultimately, it goes back to me to the teachers are asking for this support. And I really thank you for helping them get it.
Thank you, Ms. Castro. So we know that some of you have not had your particular question addressed. The screeners combined similar questions of general interest to the audience in the limited time we had available. We hope that you will contact the candidates for additional information. Your local leagues also participate in Voters Edge, an online collection of candidates' information. We encourage you to view the candidates' resumes, platforms, and positions there. Thank you to the candidates for participating this evening and really answering questions that were asked. We thank you for coming and taking the time to be an educated voter. We also had many volunteers from our local leagues participating, and we want to thank them for their help. We welcome any of you to join the League of Women Voters in empowering voters and defending democracy. Please vote on June 7th.